I was supposed to be planting this weekend, but my raised beds started falling apart. After a rough winter and all the rain we've been having, they were literally starting to just push out. And with 150 pounds of food going into them, I couldn't risk a mid-season collapse. So now I'm rebuilding the garden. The cool weather has bought me a little bit of time, but when it's ready, these are the 5 crops that will hit the garden first, because they could produce 150 pounds of food and keep me on track for my 650 pound goal. Snap peas aren't a heavy lifter in my garden in terms of weight, but they are a family favorite for the spring. I'm going to plant a 5-foot double row of sugar lace snap peas with an estimated harvest of 4 pounds. While they don't move the needle much towards my goal, they are a special seasonal spring treat for the family. I have tried freezing them in the past, and I just don't like the way that freezing them changes their texture, so we only consume them fresh. They start to produce in June, and by July, it's just so hot here that they start to get bitter. I'm going to plant the peas behind my lavender hedge. The reason for this is that it makes it easy for picking because I can pick from the front of the garden bed and from both sides. And I think pea flowers are beautiful, and that front edge of that bed faces towards my kitchen window. And since they only are producing for a month or so, I want to see them as much as possible before they're gone. From a nutritional perspective, they have a high amount of vitamin C, A, and K, and they have a fair bit of protein in them for a vegetable. No surprise here, potatoes are doing the heavy lifting for weight in the spring garden. I'm planning to give potatoes 48 to 50 square feet of gardening space in the new raised beds. I'm hoping for a yield of 72 pounds of potatoes. Potatoes are not my favorite crop to plant in the spring because they take a fair bit of work to get planted. You need to loosen the soil, they like their soil nice and fluffy, and you need to dig a fairly deep hole to get them planted. And then when you're done all that, it doesn't look like you've done anything until a couple weeks later when their leaves finally poke out of the ground. I feel the same way about crops like carrots and other vegetables you have to direct seed, but take a few weeks to get up and germinated. However, come late July, early August, and it's time to harvest the potatoes, they are one of my favorite things to harvest. Nutritionally, potatoes have a good amount of potassium, vitamin C, and vitamin B6. They are also the highest energy calorie producing crop in my garden. The crop I'm most excited to plant in my spring garden is lettuce. I'm giving lettuce 6 square feet, 4 per square foot, with an estimated yield of 7 pounds before this first planting bolts and goes to seed. What makes me so excited about lettuce is that they instantly add color to the garden. I like to plant a mixture of dark reds, some speckled and greens, and just straight green lettuce that just are absolutely beautiful to my eye. They are also the first crop I get to harvest anything from. Some of these plants look like I could harvest from them in their trays. I will give them about a week to settle into their new home when I get them planted, and then it'll be time to harvest. That means we are a couple weeks from being able to harvest garden fresh produce again. And that's why lettuce excites me. I don't think we think of lettuce as being terribly high in nutrients due to its high water content and the fact that it's the base of meals, not typically the main event. But this red variety in particular is high in antioxidants and vitamin A due to its red coloring. Onions have been in my house for months now. I started the seed back in January and we're finally almost time to get them planted out. I am planting 20 square feet of onions, 4 onions per square foot, with an estimated harvest of 40 pounds. This is part of an experiment that I'm doing, trying to grow the same weight of onions I grew last year, but in half the space. And I'm doing this by growing stronger, healthier seedlings, protecting them from the allium leaf miner, and giving them proper nutrition. I very much enjoy planting onions. I enjoy pulling the plants apart and watching their wiry roots pull away from one another. And I appreciate that they are a seedling, so it looks like I've actually done something when I'm done planting. Onions are known for their high quercetin content. an antioxidant that is known to reduce inflammation in the liver. They also contain sulfur, which aids in liver detoxification. My largest spring crop in terms of number of seedlings that I plant into the ground is broccoli. I'm planting 72 broccoli plants with an estimated harvest of 30 pounds. Now I'm playing around with some extra nitrogen in the form of blood meal and some wider spacing between plants in the hope of increasing my average head size. But 30 pounds is my baseline based on historical averages of how broccoli has performed in my garden. However, I am hopeful that I'll be able to increase that head size this year. Broccoli is an interesting crop for a small garden. It takes up a lot of room and it doesn't create a large volume of food for the room that it takes up. However, when I look at what my family eats and what we enjoy consuming, broccoli always makes the list. The compromise for me has been planting a lot of broccoli in the spring, and as soon as it's ready for harvest, to pull it out and get some heat-loving crops in its place. The heat lovers often have a higher harvest for the space used. Broccoli is exceptionally high in both vitamin C and vitamin K. It is also a good source of folate, vitamin A, and vitamin B. And you can't forget about sulforaphane, a plant compound that broccoli creates that may have some protective effects against various different types of cancers. Before we wrap up this video, I did want to share a little sneak peek of the new raised beds. In total, there'll be 5 shorter raised beds in the space that the older ones were. I have been working on them for 3 whole days now. This is my first day off from working on them in 3 days, and I think I have 1 more day before they'll be complete. I have a couple finishing touches and some reseeding of grass to do before it's complete. I also wanted to take the time and say thank you to everybody for their support in watching these videos. You have made sharing this journey of growing 650 pounds of food so much more fun and so much more fulfilling. It's been great to hear from people around the world as well as the local folks here in Ontario. So those are the 5 crops that will be going into my garden as soon as those raised beds are ready. Some of them, like peas and lettuce, are more for enjoyment and quick harvest in the spring, while my broccoli, onions, and potatoes are doing the heavy lifting to keep me on track for that 650 pound goal. Right now, everything kind of hinges on the weather and getting that space finished up. In the next video, I'm hoping to be able to give you a tour of the new space, how I laid it out, why I laid it out that way, if I gained any more growing space by laying them out a certain way. Did I lose any garden space by laying them out this certain way? Because there are so many different ways you can lay out your garden, and some definitely have some clear advantage and disadvantage over others.